know, it's a crazy day when the Demise King of Armageddon is back. Demise, the King of Armageddon. Now, this is an interesting interaction that you guys should smash the crap out of. So you guys don't miss out more awesome. So Demise King of Armageddon was just pay 2k and basically board wipe the field, which you're probably like, oh, okay, Robbie, so why is this relevant? So they actually have a support card called Turning of the World, and it's a quick play ritual spell. Now, before you're like, huh? It is a quick play ritual spell. I mean, so it can be used to ritual summon Ruin and or Demise from the hand or deck. Oh, you're telling me I can just one card this to summon Demise? But you also have to tribute ritual monsters from your hand whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster that you are trying to ritual summon. Demise is an 8. Mitsurugi. Alright. Coincidence? I don't think so. This puts an extra 8 on the field, and it allows you to tribute, yes, that's the key component here. You're able to tribute those Mitsurugi ritual monsters out of your hand, and you're basically able to use them as starting points for combo, which I think is actually one of the most innovative and yet cool things that we've had the chance to see in a very long time in terms of modern era Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, level 8s are one of the greatest jumping points for these decks, especially, you know, when it's like, hey, you know, I can combine this into a zombie vampire and go down another line. Or, you know, we can, Nadir Servant, drop down the Herald and access, you know, the combo lines that way. There's a lot that you can work with in terms of, you know, innovations and the little things within the deck space. So I got to give it to the innovation of Demise and the Turning of the World, because it's simply beautiful concept, say the least. Good old Trigate Wizard's been spotted in Malice. Now, I thought that this one was really cool to mention because, remember, Trigate has to have monsters pointing to it based on what's co-linked with it. So your 1+ effect is if a monster co-linked to this card battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage inflicts to your opponent becomes doubled, which that one becomes pretty good. I do like that. 2, once returned, you can target a card on the field and banish it. Case in point, you target a card on the field and banish it. You're telling me I can banish my Malice monster and then trigger the Malice monster to bring it back and reap any sort of beneficial effects that monster could be giving me? Oh, okay. And then, of course, your last effect is the most infamous one, which was the once when a card effect's activated, and it's 3+. You negate that activation if you do banish that card. I like the fact that Malice actually can use all 3 effects of this very, very easily. And I mean, being able to banish and reset something, being able to do extra battle damage, this card's purpose is to close out the game against the opponent and make your life way easier. And I'm okay with that, man. I'm okay with having cards whose job is just to end the game quicker. We need cards like this that aren't necessarily broken. Also, I mean, this negate's going to take a crap ton of setup in Malice. You know, getting 3 things revved up and getting them co-linked with each other. Malice doesn't exactly have the most user-friendly arrows in the world, but it also, it's not that hard to do, especially if Ally Code Talker becomes involved and, you know, you're beaming down the extra pieces. You can set up around this just to kind of get the little extra bread and butter for what you want. Oh, God. GoldenEye's Idol. You know, I was really, really interested to see this card come back up. Now, remember, the last time that we saw this was actually back in Blue Eyes, some time ago. Now, this card says once per turn, you can activate this effect. Look at your opponent's hand. And then, this card's name becomes Thousand Eyes Idol till the end phase. This card has a bunch of other text that is irrelevant for the purpose that you are wanting this for. What you are doing with this card is you are basically using it in Yummy to take a look into your opponent's hand and see if your opponent has any cards that are going to tell you, no, you're not playing the game this time around. You know, things like Nibiru, Ash Blossom. Obviously, if you're normal summoning this and activating the effect, you've now got a level 1 on the field. If you've got any other level 1, or by the way, this can technically turn into a Link 1 because its stat line is 0/0. So, you know, taking a peek and knowing which part of the combo that you can go down, or actually the crazy part here is knowing when to put on the brakes. When you have to make that decision that says, oh crap, I have to stop here. I cannot extend any further than I have already set up. You know, I know my opponent has a nib, or can I pivot into a way to make the Nibiru less impactful? And that's what this monster of a brick's job is to do. And like I said, I've seen this in combination with Pyre's map. They got ways to get to this card, all right? And it just kind of comes down to, you know, once again, this proves how much and how important hand knowledge is in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Knowing how to formulate that counterplay and knowing, oh crap, I have to do this here, really is a very, very amazing thing. And then we have the Magikey mechmortar Glasser. Oh god. Now, you're probably like, what in the heck did you just say to me, Robbie? So, there is a very simple 0 amount of text that you care about on this card, except for the fact that it says machine and it is a ritual monster on it. So, the reason why this is important is because dear old Canine, Mitsurugi, exists. Now, you're probably like, how are we making use of this? So, first of all, you're going to need to get access into Riverstormer. Riverstormer is the first job. So, you use the Canine cards to get into Riverstormer. Riverstormer's job is to go fetch you a machine monster out of the deck. So you go search for this ritual monster, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, I got this nice little brick in my hand. What do I do with this? Well, you actually combo use this up with the idea or the extension concept of the Ashura Link monster. Now, his job is to pivot that ritual monster in your hand to go get you something of a different type from the deck, which, you guessed it, bridges you into full Mitsurugi combo from that point. Now, is this deck or concept incredibly broken? You know, is this usable? Are we gonna be able to make use of this all the time? Here's the thing, Duelist. You're playing a Garnet in your deck. You know, you're playing this brick for the payoff of, hey, you know, I can go into full Mitsurugi combo. While the Canine stuff's job is to buffer you down and make sure that you're basically not getting punished by any sorts of hand traps so that you can access the better part of your deck's engine. That is fine. That is the kind of stuff that we look at and we go, yes, this seems good on paper. So, a little bit of a payoff, but I think it's worth it. And then Dimensional Fissure, I wanted to talk about here. Di-Fi has been making some interesting little splashes fairly recently. It's not that this card is broken by any stretch of the imagination, it's just Malice is running around in the format and they want to make sure that your cards are going out of play because, you know, it's kind of annoying to them that they have to sit there and they, you know, are getting punished by all these graveyard reliant decks. You know, Mitsurugi's over here, you know, setting up the field trying to bring back the ritual monsters. But if I slam down this Dimensional Fissure on the table, all my monsters can start to float back, and I basically can start to inconvenience you by taking away your resources. Now, Dimensional Fissure is a floodgate, but the thing is, though, it's a much slower floodgate. You know, if I go second and I have Di-Fi in the deck, well, it's kind of a brick fest. You know, it doesn't really do a lot to kind of facilitate extending through combos. No, actually, it's kind of quite the opposite. It just kind of feels very bricky and that sort of thing. So, while I do think Dimensional Fissure is a cool tech, and side note, I have seen Mitsurugi actually playing this in Shifter. I mean, 99% of the time they don't really give a crap. Their goal is, oh, hey, you know, this is hurting you more than it is me. And it basically allows me to basically get free setup and I can kind of go through combos. So, you know, there's a lot to kind of think about with Dimensional Fissure being a card within the format that actually is a good talking floodgate, but it does work. So what do you guys think? Please, comment down below what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys.
Patrons!
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.